Welcome to the Bag Maker's Workroom. I am Chris with Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, June 26, 2025. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, but tonight is an exception because we are pre-recording this episode. It's because on Thursday, when you're watching this, I'll be in Salt Lake City for Bernina University. We'll be back at the usual format next week, but don't worry, we will still have a great episode for you tonight. Our topic tonight is woven bags, and here is what we have planned. First, we'll go over news and updates. I'll show you our pattern of the week and our perfect pairings. We'll learn about woven leather bags and look at some designer bags for inspiration. We'll talk about the history of Bottega Veneta. We're going to feature our customer's bag in Artistry Avenue. And finally, I'll tell you how to enter our weekly giveaway. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat or in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them in next week's episode. Also, please take a second to subscribe and click the thumbs up button below the video to help us reach more people. I really appreciate your support. So now we are going to move on to the Simply Classic Scoop. So the first thing we want to remind you about is that our bag making subscription box is now on sale. It is a seasonal bag making subscription box, and it is a quarterly subscription, which means the subscribers get 4 boxes a year with the pattern and materials to make a brand new bag every season. It's a great way to try out different products at a discount and get new Simply Classic patterns before they're available to the public. Each box includes access to a never-before-seen Simply Classic PDF pattern and an ad-free video tutorial, the faux leather lining and hardware that you'll need to make the bag, and then, of course, a lot of other goodies for your workroom. So this is one of our boxes from last season. We had 2 variations. One was this terracotta color, and we also had a blue-gray. And, of course, it came with a password to access the PDF pattern in the tutorial. Boxes are $80 plus shipping each quarter, which is at least a 20% savings off the retail value of the items. If you want to save even more, you can pay for the full year up front. It'll be one payment of $320, and you only pay for shipping on the first box. So we've gotten some amazing feedback from customers so far who have received their boxes this quarter. So y'all are really loving it, which makes me very happy, and I can't wait to see your finished bags. The subscription period ends on Monday, June 30th. And if we have any boxes left over, we'll sell them for $95 each. It's still a savings, but not quite as much of a savings. But the only way to really guarantee that you're going to get a box is to subscribe. Last few quarters, we have completely sold out by the end of the subscription period. Now, I do have one subscription box to give away. So on Friday, June 27th, which is tomorrow, I'll be going live from Bernina University to pick a winner. Don't know exactly what time I'll be doing it, so make sure you subscribe, click the bell icon, and turn on your notifications if you want to be alerted when I go live. This giveaway will be open to the US only because of shipping, and one person in the chat on tomorrow's live will win our summer bag making mystery box. So we also want to remind you that we have designated July as Leather Month. It is Leather Month here at Simply Classic, and it's a holiday we made up, but we're really excited about it. And so for the whole month, we'll be talking about leather bag making. We'll also have some amazing deals on leather throughout July. If you have any questions about working with leather, please email them to share@simplyclassic.net, and I'll do my best to answer them on the future live streams. I also want to tell you about a new resources page we have on our website. We put all of our free patterns, cutting charts, and pattern pieces in one place, so they're really easy to find. If you go to resources in the top menu bar and then click on free downloads, then you will see all of the patterns there. I also want to just point your attention to the recommended products here. That's not circled in red, but that's a really great page as well. We have a bunch of recommended products. It'd be worth your while to check out that page. But basically, these here are some of the free patterns and free pattern pieces that you can get. We have the Madison wallet, a leather bow. It's a Wallasa leather bow, and some different bags. We also have free pattern pieces that you can download to make bag flaps, strap connectors, and all sorts of things. There are tutorials to go along with every freebie, so check it out. There's really a lot of great stuff. The other thing I want to let you know about, and a lot of you have probably already seen this, but I posted a video hack last week showing you how to make this bag. It's inspired, which is this bag right here. It is inspired by the Louis Vuitton Graceful bag, and I hacked our Bertram pattern to make it. I really love how it turned out. I didn't have the right size O-rings, but other than that, I think it looks so much like the inspiration bag. It's really amazing. All of the measurements are in the pattern. So essentially it's a free pattern. Okay. So I kind of hacked the Bertram. That's kind of my starting place, but I give you all the measurements in this video. So you love the Louis Vuitton Neverfull bag so much that I decided to make another one for you. And a couple of you have asked me for this video. So it's really a nice size bag, comes together beautifully. I decided to use some of our snake because it's lightweight and I love the colors. I ended up doing tricolor, which was a camel actual handle, and then the blue here in the where I put my little strap or my little what do you call it, bag tag here in the center. Okay, so this is the Graceful tote. Really love it. Think it's a fantastic pattern. It got nice purse feet on the bottom. You can see it's nice and wide. It's really a great bag. Fits well on your shoulder. You can make the strap, of course, any size you want, and I explain all that in the video. So I say, go ahead, check it out. As you know, I love hack videos. I love giving y'all some free stuff, and that's just one of them. So I want to thank you for suggesting it. We're going to move on to our featured products, and now it's time to look at our pattern of the week, which is the Fairhaven. So the Fairhaven is the bag you see here and the bag you see there on top. The Fairhaven is $12.49 through next Wednesday, July 2nd. So the inspiration for the Fairhaven was this Brahmin bag called the Petra 2. What really stood out to me was the woven front panel. So on the Fairhaven pattern, I included the option to make your bag either with or without it, whichever you prefer. So we're going to switch over to the overhead and we're going to take a closer look at the Fairhaven. So it's really a nice size bag. Again, the exterior panel, basically this section here, can either be solid or it can be a woven panel. The finish size is 13 inches wide, 12.75 or 12.75 inches tall, and 5 inches deep. Okay, so it's a pretty big bag. Skill level is confident beginner. It does have a 16-inch handle drop, and you know that you can always make handles bigger or shorter, however you would like. On the inside, we have a zipper pocket and a slip pocket on one side. On the other side, we have a divided slip pocket, and then, of course, we have a key fob, which we always need. Now, this one here is out of leather, really a gorgeous leather. It's, I think, called Crackle Brown. I don't think we have any of it left, or if we do, we only have one hide. So, you know, if you're interested in it, you might want to grab it. I don't know that you're going to have quite enough to make the Fairhaven, but you could certainly do the center panel in maybe this color and then the sides in a different color. There's really a great opportunity to color block with this bag. And you can see a little bit of that in the bag there at the top. I went ahead and did the bottom a different color. If you go on our inspiration group, you're going to see tons of people who have made the Fairhaven in all different ways. And we really love the way you combine colors. So again, the Fairhaven PDF pattern is on sale for $12.49. We're also doing 10% off the Fairhaven hardware kits in bronze, nickel, and gunmetal. That discount ends next Wednesday, July 2nd. Later in the show, I'll show you how you can enter to win the Fairhaven pattern, so stay tuned. Next is Perfect Pairings, where we pair some of our leather and faux leather with matching lining, thread, and hardware. Sometimes it's hard to shop online, we know that, and so we try to do this segment so that you can see some great color combinations and use it as inspiration for your next bag, whatever it may be. So the first thing that we want to show you is our faux leather pairing. And This whole episode is about woven bags. So we want to go ahead and do a combination. This is chocolate brown solid. We have the suede brown that we think would look amazing with it. This is dark brown thread by Filtech. That's the thread we carry. We have that in Fusion 45 and in Tech 70. We think the chambray beige would look great for lining. And then, of course, the bronze hardware would pair nicely. For our leather pairing, we want to show you something here that we think is amazing. We love this. It is called sea green. It's really a beautiful color. And what we suggest with it is to use a brown chambray, of course, bronze hardware. And I actually think sand would be the best color to use on this sea green. Now, we're not showing you an accent for this because I suggest using the back, which is kind of like a suede, for the accent if you're going to do a woven front panel. And we're going to actually do that in just a minute. I'm going to show you how that looks. It's really beautiful, and you can really take advantage of the back of these hides to use them to accent your bags. So we have got the sea green is 10% off this week. And of course, the Fairhaven kits are 10% off. And then, of course, the Fairhaven pattern is on sale as well. So next, we're going to look at some designer bag inspiration. And again, you know, this episode is about woven designer bags. There's a lot out there. They're really hot right now. They're trendy. I personally love them. I think they look fantastic. And we want to first start out by talking about weaving as a technique. So at a basic level, weaving is when you interlace two pieces of material at right angles, okay? That's really all it is. In textile products, that means using a loom with thread or yarn to create a woven fabric like this photo. As you can see in the diagram, the warp threads are held in place lengthwise, and the weft threads are passed over and under them to create the weave. So in bag making, we're doing basically that same thing, but we're doing it with strips of fabric or leather instead. So there are three basic weave patterns that all other weaving techniques are built on. There's a plain weave, there's a twill weave, and a satin weave. So plain weave is just over under. Okay, that's how, of course, we know, most of us know how to do that. Over under, we get a woven piece of whatever we're working with. But twill and satin have slightly more complex pattern. Twill ends up with kind of a diagonal weave look to it. And one common example is denim. Okay, denim has a twill weave. Satin has more space between interlockings, which gives it a smooth sheen, but it also makes it less durable. Now, these are terms we usually use to talk about woven textiles, not woven handbags. So for example, we can absolutely weave together pieces of leather using a satin weave pattern, but we probably wouldn't call it a satin leather bag, right? I mean, that would sound strange. So there are a lot of different weaving patterns that build on these three basic techniques. We won't get into all of the specifics of how they're created, but I do want to show you a few examples. So here we have a basket weave, a Leno weave, and a waffle weave. So with that in mind, let's look at some designer bags that use weaving. Let me know in the comments what you like or dislike about these bags. So these bags both use a plain weave pattern. They look very different because of the scale. The gold bag is tightly woven, and the brown Michael Kors bag has a bigger piece that, you know, just makes it look a little looser and more casual. They're also oriented differently. One has vertical and horizontal weave, the one on the left, and then of course the Michael Kors is a diagonal weave. Now, these bags here are reminders that you don't have to use solid leather. There are so many different materials that you can use. On an episode a few weeks ago, we even saw a woven bag made entirely out of webbing. I don't know if you remember that. That was really interesting. So this brown classic Elena bag is actually made of suede, which gives the weave a really interesting texture. I really love that. Also notice how the weave pattern carries up into the handles. This must have taken a long time to make. This bag is amazing. The other bag is made of woven cork, and it really looks amazing, looks very different, kind of earthy, much more casual, I think, than the bag on the left. But again, you can weave whatever you would like, whatever kind of medium you want to use. You can also play with color, and when you use two contrasting colors, you'll get a checkerboard pattern like this. Or you can use even more colors if you want to get really creative. And on this tote bag, it looks like they stitched together different colored leather to create these long strips. Then they wove those strips together. So what I'm talking about is on this unbranded tote on the left, if you follow one piece, either the warp or the weft, doesn't matter, and you look at that one piece going all the way up the bag, it changes color. So it's almost like they stitched some of this stuff together. Either that or maybe when they dyed it different in different sections. So it's really unique. I think that's kind of cool the way that looks. Now the bag on the right is more of a color block look, and this one also has a very unique woven leather strap. So now we're getting into some different types of weaving patterns. The red bag is a faux suede, and it has a twill style weaving pattern. The brown bag is leather, and it uses a twist on the classic basket weave pattern. And we really blew this one up and looked at it closely. And I think what they're doing here is they're using two different types or shapes of leather. So for instance, the horizontal is a thicker strip of leather, and then the vertical is again, I'm sure it's leather, but it's got like some texture to it, almost like a seam down the middle of it. And it really gives a cool look to this bag. I really like this bag. I was studying it for a while. I think it's really nice. Now, this one is interesting because it's more of a cage style where they intentionally left space between the weaving pattern. The canvas lining is completely removable, so you could just walk around with a holy bag, which of course you wouldn't want to do, but it's really made so that you can pull that lining out and wash it. So here, this bag is really unique. This is another one I studied for a while. I really like this. It's woven pieces, but they're different shapes, they're different thicknesses, and they're different sizes. And it almost reminds me of origami more than weaving. It's an unlined bag, so there are some small gaps towards the top, but it's constructed in a way that keeps the bottom half completely closed. And I'm sure that once you fill the bag and you pick it up, all of those little spots would kind of close up, right? Because it would tighten that weave. I think that's really, really pretty. I love it. And then finally, this is a faux leather bag with faux weave texture. It's not actually woven. This is just what the vinyl looks like. But I wanted you to see that you can actually get a similar look without doing any weaving. So I hope that gave you some inspiration and ideas. Weaving is really versatile, and it's a technique used by a lot of designers. We're going to see some more inspiration in a few minutes when we talk about Bottega Veneta bags. But first, it's time to sharpen your skills. So this segment is where we look at sewing techniques to help you become a better bag maker. And today I'm going to show you how to create a simple woven pattern for a bag. And this is the same basic technique that we use in the Fairhaven. So we are going to move over to the overhead. I'm going to move our leather out of the way. And there's a couple different ways to approach weaving. So we're going to start, I'm going to take some of these pieces away, and we're going to start, I'm going to show you how to weave, okay, without having any stitches showing, because I think that's a very classy look. But keep in mind that a lot of the bags we saw in today's inspiration and even in previous episodes, they actually stitched right down the middle. Once it's all woven, they stitch it all together and you can see those stitches, and that's a totally different look, which is okay too. Okay, so pick your basically your favorite way. I always like to start with a piece of cotton, just something really, really lightweight, like what you see here. It's not interfaced. I mean, it's just something to stitch the leather or faux leather to. I'm using the sea green leather, and we're going to use the back side of this for part of it. Okay. So what I typically do is I start out by placing, one piece, either vertical or horizontal, doesn't really matter how you start. Whatever you want in the center of your bag is going to be what you put face up. So if you want the suede look in the center, that's what you're going to put. If you want the solid look, that's what you're going to put up. Okay, either way, it doesn't matter. I'm going to say suede, so I'm going to put that up. Then from there, I'm going to take a second piece, and I'm just going to lay it. I'm just trying to find a piece that works well. I'm going to lay it right on top. Now, what I would do to avoid seeing stitches, before I put this piece down, I'm going to go ahead and stitch right in here, right where you can't see, because this piece is going to hide it. Okay, so now this piece is attached. This piece is not. So before I lay my next pieces, I'm going to go ahead and stitch here and here, because those are going to be hidden. From there, I'm going to lift this up and put another piece here. So now, since the center is hidden, I'm going to fold this up, and this is where I would stitch. And I actually drawing an X. You don't have to do an X. You could certainly stitch, just straight lines down. And then I'm going to put the last one. Okay. So here we go. So now from here, what we need to do is flip up the two ends, and I'm going to lay the other two down. Okay. Now, these, of course, are scrap pieces of leather I use. When you actually make the Fairhaven, you are going to cut, I give you exact measurements for all of this. And in the Fairhaven, the bottom woven piece is actually a little shorter than the others. And that's just after the inspiration. So you can see here how by just flipping the leather over, you get a really cool looking woven pattern without having to use two different colors of leather. Again, where you're going to stitch to hold all this down is behind each of the sections that are covered, okay? And by doing that, you really don't have to stitch anything else down. It'll hold together. You are going to want to use a cotton, or you're going to want to use some kind of backing that more closely matches your material, okay, your front material. This is the closest I had today. It's just a beige, but you certainly wouldn't want to put like bright red behind black or pink behind, blue. I mean, you're going to want to try to match it as much as possible, because as you stitch these down and you lift it up, if this comes apart a little bit or if it stretches, you're going to see a little bit peeking out, and that's what we don't want. Okay, so that is kind of the idea of weaving, but I want to show you how different it looks if I'm going to move this aside, use smaller pieces, because it gives you a much different look. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with a base here, and I'm going to start by putting, what are my pieces? Vertical, one horizontal. Now, with the smaller pieces, we're obviously going to have more weaving going on. So when I stitch, if I do not want to see any of my stitching, I'm going to have to make sure I pick this up, stitch here, and then I'm going to have to stitch here and here, and you get the idea, I'm sure. So I'm going to put a couple more. Now, the other thing I'm sure you notice is that if I put suede in one direction, I'm keeping it in that direction the whole time. So we're going to take a piece of this, I'm going to fold this up, slide it in. And of course, as these are all getting stitched down, this is staying in place. Okay. So you want to get it as tight as possible. And again, you'd be stitching. So we're going to do another one. And of course, this time we're going to go underneath here, underneath here. And then we're going to do the same thing here. So each time I put one of these down, I would be taking it to the machine and stitching. Okay. So we're going to do one more on each side. So we want to do opposite. Okay, we'll slide it in. And then we're going to do one over here as well. Now, if you do not want to stitch each time you put one of these down, and instead you'd rather just stitch it all together once it's put together, still recommend that you use some kind of backing to kind of hold it. Maybe use a little bit of double-sided tape to hold it. And then what you would be doing is stitching down the center of each one of these rows horizontally and vertically, okay? And then that will hold it in place. So you can see here the difference between, I'm going to try to fit both of these in the camera, what the larger weave looks like, okay, and what the smaller weave looks like. So a lot of it's personal preference. You can kind of, figure out what you like. Obviously, the smaller weave is going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more patience to do, where the larger one you could certainly knock out a lot quicker. But weaving is really just that simple, especially the simple weave. And it really makes a pretty cool looking bag. Okay. So I hope that helps give you some inspiration. I think it's a lot of fun to do. It's definitely something you can mix and match colors and patterns and textiles. And I really am looking forward to see what you do with this, because I'm sure y'all can do some really cool things. So next is our Thursday thread, and every week on the Thursday thread, we tell you a sewing story, either from my life, your life, or from history, some kind of fun history. And today we're going to be talking about the history of Bottega Veneta. And Bottega Veneta is an Italian fashion house that is best known for its woven leather bags. That's why we wanted to feature them tonight. So it was founded in Vicenza, Italy, by Michele Today and Renzo Zenlargo. Renzo was a lifelong textile worker, and Michele was his colleague's son. And in 1966, the two men partnered up to open their own leather goods company called Bottega Veneta, which translates to Venetian shop. Michele's wife, Laura, was also very involved in the business. Bottega Veneta is famous for their intrecciato weaving technique, which is the Italian word for braided. Looks beautiful, but is actually created out of necessity and is not just for aesthetics. In the 1960s, most Italian brands made their bags out of thick, stiff leather because it was really durable. But Bottega Veneta didn't have the right sewing machines or knowledge to work with thick leather. Renzo explained, "I began to move away from the rigid shapes because I didn't have the skills as a leather craftsman. This is how I started making the soft bag more suited to the times." So they ended up finding a supplier of thin kidskin hides that were much easier to work with, but it wasn't as durable as most leather that people were accustomed to. So in order to create stronger materials their sewing machines could still handle, they created the intrecciato weaving. This is what the weaving pattern looks like. They start with a panel of leather and cut rows of vertical slits that alternate in width. So if you look from top to bottom, the slits are not all in, or the slits are not all in a straight line. They're staggered. And then that big piece with the slits becomes the underlay, which basically serves as the warp. For the weft, they use leather strips called fettucce in Italian, and they weave them through the slits to create the final design. It ends up being a variation of a basic over-under weave, but the difference is that the over sections are slightly larger than the under sections, which we can kind of see here in the second diagram. The shaded areas are bigger than the lighter spaces between them. So the result is really very, very strong and a very flexible textile that Bottega Veneta's machines could handle. So I think this is really interesting because instead of just going out and trying to get the equipment they needed to do what everybody else did, they said, hey, what can we do that will fit our needs and our machines? And I think as home sewists, we do that a lot too. So at some point, and I'm not really sure when, Michelle and Laura got divorced, and Laura got remarried to a man named Vittorio Maltado, who also worked at the company. It seems like things were amicable because they all continued to work together for years, so that was good. But when Bottega Veneta opened a storefront in Italy, they found that most of their customers were wealthy tourists from the US and France. So in the early 70s, they decided to open a new store in New York City. Laura and her new husband relocated to New York to manage the opening. By complete chance, they ended up moving next door to the famous artist Andy Warhol. So Laura took a job as a secretary. And a strange fact about Andy Warhol is that he would hire bilingual receptionists to answer the phone and door in a foreign language and confuse kind of like the weirdos who might show up uninvited. So Laura didn't quite speak fluent English at the time. And so she gladly took the job and she worked there for about a year before she had a baby and stepped away. After that, she returned to Bottega Veneta full time. She took on the role of creative director and helped expand their range of products to include things like shoes and suitcases and garments. In the late 1970s, Laura and her husband ended up taking over the company. So Laura remained friendly with her former employer, Andy Warhol, and he was really a big part of Bottega Veneta in this photo. He's even kissing a woven shoe. He did a lot to help with their marketing over the years. In 1978, he designed a minimalist ad in an interview magazine that introduced the tagline, "When your own initials are enough." And it was a reference to the fact that Bottega Veneta didn't use flashy gimmicks and logos, that their reputation and craftsmanship kind of spoke for itself. This ad has been revised and revived with slight variations over the years and as recently as 2022. There are a couple more ads from the 70s and 80s, not designed by Andy Warhol at the time, but they gave us a good picture of what Bottega Veneta bags looked like in those years. Now, by the late 90s, the company was struggling financially. They sold to the Gucci Group in 2001 and became profitable again in 2004. So since then, it's been mostly upward growth. Last year, they hit 1.7 billion euros in revenue. That's billion with a B. And if you don't know, the euro is higher than the dollar. So in 2021, they appointed a French designer, and you might recognize this name. His name is Mathieu Blase. And if you remember, we talked about him in a prior episode, and he became their creative director. He decided to get the craftspeople who made the bags more involved in the design process. And that led to the creation of two very popular bags. One was the Calimero, which is the one you see there on the left. The one on the right is the Andiamo, which we see here. So I would be really curious to know how many other big labels actually involve their sewists in the creative process. I imagine it's not very common, but I think it should be, because I think that as sewists, they have a lot to offer, know how the materials work, and I think that anybody who doesn't do that is missing the boat. So Blase left the company a few months ago to work at Chanel, and Bottega Veneta's new directive creator is an English designer named Louise Trotter. She's brand new, so she's not yet released a collection for the brand. So I'm kind of anxious to see what she comes up with. So to wrap up this segment, I want to talk a little bit more about Bottega Veneta's bags. So let's revisit the Intrecciato bags for just a minute. So Intrecciato is not always made with leather. Bottega Veneta has used all kinds of materials over the years. Here we have a canvas bag with leather trim and a PVC bag with a mother of pearl overlay. This hobo style bag is called the Jody, and it's one of Bottega Veneta's most popular designs. You've probably seen the regular woven leather version before, but they also experimented with materials like velvet and mesh. Sometimes they combine leather with other materials to make the weave. This brown bag is leather in bundles of raffia, and then the wallet on the right is leather and denim. I like that one. I think that is very classy. It gives it a little bit of a fun feel. I like the diagonal, makes it very feminine. I like that the denim is hemmed, it's not raw edges. You know, it looks like they have a stitch on it. Everything about that I really like. So this vintage Bottega Veneta frame bag that is completely different from what we see today. Instead of cutting the underlay in the usual way, they cut the slits in specific areas to kind of create this design and create this pattern. Then they stitched and added rivets to complete the design. So totally different. Not all of their bags are woven. Sometimes they use the Intrecciato pattern as a motif instead of a literal design feature. So here is an example of a polyester bag, and believe it or not, the fabric has an Intrecciato inspired print. Some of their bags don't use Intrecciato at all. Here we have two more Jody bags. One is crocheted, the other one is satin embellished with rhinestones. Bottega Veneta also makes unwoven bags out of leather suede and other kinds of materials, although woven bags are definitely what they're famous for. So last month, Bottega Veneta launched a marketing campaign called Craft is Our Language. They made a series of short videos featuring artists who work with their hands, like piano players, sculptors, and writers. The campaign is meant to highlight the craftsmanship of Bottega Veneta products and also to create all the different ways that people use their hands to communicate. So I think this is really powerful because you and I know how much work goes into making a bag. I mean, every single bag, it takes time. But when people buy a product at the store, they don't know who made it. They don't know how it was made. And with fast fashion these days, craftsmanship is just not what it used to be. So I really love that Bottega Veneta is bringing attention to the artistry that goes into designing and crafting these beautiful bags. So let me know what you think about this concept and about Bottega Veneta bags in general. I always love to hear your thoughts. So speaking of artistry, it's time for Artistry Avenue, featuring bags made by you, our customers. Every week we share bags that were posted in the Simply Classic bag making community on Facebook or emailed to share@simplyclassic.net. Featured artists will win a PDF pattern of your choice. This is open worldwide. If we feature your bag, you'll have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you'd like. So now let's take a look at this week's artists. So Robin shared this photo last time. The Fairhaven was part of our pattern of the week, and I believe she was carrying this bag when I met her in person. I really love all the different materials she used on it, including the ostrich on the sides. The design on the front is heat transfer, and it's just so cute. Quick reminder that the Fairhaven PDF pattern is on sale this week for $12.49, and it has that front panel that you can do a lot with. Now, the black on this bag almost looks like it's got some kind of woven pattern to it, but actually it doesn't. These are just little painted dots on the vinyl. Pretty cool. So Mariah made this bag and she made the Lusso and she did such an amazing job with it. She actually used the same materials to make a little mini collection of 3 hobo bags from 3 different pattern designers, which I love. And the Lusso was one of those patterns. She used this amazing faux leather with embossed crowns on it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's really pretty. And she matched her thread to the accent color, which is, of course, the pink. And then she used this amazing lining that pulled it all together. So amazing job, Mariah. I really love your Lusso. And then Dawn made this Julie, and she used upholstery fabric and cork. And so I love the way she paired the red with this. That might not have been maybe my like the immediate thought, but it works really well together. And I just love the way it looks. The cork is certainly very, very pretty. I love the contrast in textures with the cork and the upholstery. So I don't know, Dawn, I'm kind of wondering what these 2 materials would look like woven. So maybe you can do a little woven sample for us and post it. So thank you and congratulations to all of our artists. Please email us within 30 days to let us know which PDF pattern you would like. So before we move on to our Q&A, it's time to announce our giveaway. We're giving away 2 PDF patterns for the Fairhaven. And in case you missed it, the Fairhaven is the bag behind me. This one here, and then the one also on top. Since we are pre-recording this episode, we can't pick a live winner. So instead, we're going to pick 2 winners from the comment section on the video replay. Doesn't matter if you're watching on Thursday night or if you're watching the replay later. This is how everyone can enter. So go ahead and leave a comment on your replay with your first name and your favorite color of bag hardware. So as a reminder to everyone in the live chat, you will need to refresh the page after the live is over and leave your comment on the replay video. So if you type your answer in the chat right now, it's not going to count. You have to go back to the replay, okay? Just so that everything's in one spot to make it a lot easier for us, and that's how the computer's going to capture it all. So just hang in there for 1 second and you can enter as soon as the live stream ends. Next week, I'll randomly select 2 commenters to receive the Fairhaven PDF pattern. And then of course, we'll also be choosing the winner from last week's comment section. So speaking of giveaways, I want to remind you that I will be going live from Bernina University tomorrow, which is Friday, June 27th, to give away a bag making subscription box. The value is over $100, okay? And there is no doubt about that. You go through and you buy each one of those things individually, you're going to be paying over $100. So make sure you subscribe. Click the bell icon below and turn on your YouTube notifications so you don't miss out. Okay, we're not sure what time we're going to be able to go live, so that notification will help you be notified so you can hop on. It's not going to be a long video, it's just going to be a quick giveaway. That is open to US residents only because of the shipping. So before we wrap up, I do want to answer a question. Rebecca on YouTube asked if I have a pattern for the Simply Classic Clutch 2. Now, for those of you who may remember, who have been, wonderful fans for so long and wonderful viewers for so long, Simply Classic Clutch 2 was a bag that I made on a live stream a couple years ago, and I did not end up turning it into a full pattern. However, so many people have asked for it. I want to tweak it and I want to add it, have the ability to add a chain to it. And so I have to do a little bit of work with it, but it's still on my list for the future. So make sure you kind of keep your eye open for it. And, there's just so many bags with so many possibilities and so many ideas and so little time. My gosh. So anyway, it's coming. I promise. At some point, it's coming. So thank you all for joining me in the Bag Makers Workroom. Join us next Thursday, July 3rd at 7 p.m. We will be live, and in honor of United States Independence Day, we'll be talking about the history of American bags. And we're going to specifically focus on leather because it's leather month. It will be July, so it will be leather month. So don't forget to submit your Simply Classic makes by posting them in the Facebook group or emailing share@simplyclassic.net. So until next week, everybody, happy sewing.